Hey YouTube, Atheist Vapist checking in. Today we're going to be talking about the 3D Dripper. And this is coming from, okay, bear with me, I'm going to try to pronounce this name here. Atmomixani. Anyway, it's that company. So anyway, I believe I pronounced that right, but I could be wrong. This is a cool little dripper. Obviously, it's designed by the same company that created the Nemesis, and it shows because this dripper actually connects and becomes the 510 part of your Nemesis mod. So if you've got a Nemesis mod, this dripper was designed for you. Look at that. And this is the part I'm talking about, your 510 top. Boom, gone, seamless. Look at that. I'll show you here. It's just a straight connection with the battery. So that's pretty cool. You don't have to worry about any kind of contact issues. It's just going direct to the battery. So I'm guessing way less of a voltage drop this route. Yeah, this is a cool little dripper. You know, I like that the 3D and the Nemesis Angel, Death Angel thing line up. The serial numbers line up. It's got the little train logo. So yeah, I like all that. I think that's pretty cool that, you know, they were able to thread this thing right, considering how many different clones are out there that make a Nemesis clone, and that it lines up so perfect. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, let's take a puff on it and talk about it a little bit. Now this thing is a lot more of an airy draw than I'm used to, and I watched some other reviews just to kind of see what other people were saying about it, and I heard some complaints that for people that like to drip, it's not enough of an airflow. I don't know. I'll show you what I got set up on my Spirit dripper. Look at these tiny little holes. I went with the smallest option they had at CaptiveVape.com when I got this thing. And that's plenty of an air draw for me. So this thing was quite a difference, even though the holes are really not that much bigger. I got it set at the 1.8 millimeter setting, and so you got 3 different options. You can go 1.8, 1.5, or 1.2 millimeter holes. And when you do a dual coil build, you have to do the biggest holes, the biggest air holes, which are the 1.8. Basically, this ring up here spins around, and I'll show you that later. Because I can't really do it that well with it attached. It's a really stiff O-ring to spin around. But anyway, you would spin it if you have a single coil build and go for the smaller air holes. Alright, so let's just pull this thing apart a little bit. So the top comes off like so. And I've got a dual coil build in here. I believe it was coming in at 1.2 ohm, maybe 1, somewhere in there. Can't remember off the top of my head. I went with the vertical coils, and I watched P. Bissardo's video, and he recommended going this route, and I could see why. It's a pretty tight fit in there, and kind of a deep channel in there, so it just fits better. If you see, this thing recesses inside the dripper, and so you've got these walls to contend with as well. You don't want your coils butting up against the walls, so I found it easier to just go the vertical coil route, and I went ahead and did a dual coil build. P. Bissardo recommended just doing a single coil build because of the air draw problems. I don't have these same problems, so for me, like I said, it's almost too much air. I'm not used to such good airflow. Some of the cool things I was going to show you down in here. So it has a juice well inside the dripper, so it's like a dripper you don't have to always drip into. I didn't fill that up just because I got to clean this thing and send it back to my buddy Ben Cole. Thank you very much for loaning this for the review. So I really didn't want to go to the extra step, and I'm not going to pull this whole thing apart. I'm just going to kind of show you what's going on with it and talk about it. If you really need to know how to pull the whole thing apart and see the spring inside there, check out P. Bissardo's video on the dripper. He has a 45-minute video on this thing. I'm not going to go into that much detail. I think that's a little excessive. I like the guy, but 45 minutes is a bit much for me. So anyway, I'm not going to pull the whole thing apart just for video's sake, but I am going to tell you about what's going on in there. So essentially, if you look down, let's see if I can get that on camera here, that little hole there inside there you would put your drip tip, and you can fill up, it goes up to I think almost 2 milliliters of juice storage in your juice well, and so it kind of just goes down in the bottom of this thing. And if I were to pull this apart, you would see that if you pull the coil hookup out, there's a spring underneath, and you could pull that up and you would see the juice well underneath there. So all you're missing is a spring and a juice well, but I'm sure you can imagine what that looks like. But why is there a spring in there, you ask? Well, when you do put juice down in that hole, whenever your wick needs to get moistened up, you basically, well, I'll just show you. We push this thing back on here, line our air holes up with our coils. You see that? When you push it down, it pushes juice up from that juice well and rejuices your wicks. And in theory, when you do that, the excess juice would go back down into the hole right there. The excess juice would go back that isn't on the wick, in theory. Does it actually work? It's you know, it works okay, I should say. It's not that it doesn't work, but as I've seen from other reviewers, it leaves quite a bit of juice out there, so I just said screw it, I'm just going to drip onto it. I don't mind taking that one little extra step, but just know that it is designed in a way that you could be a dripper on the go without having to worry about filling it up. And I mean, 2 milliliters of juice is a pretty good amount. That would last me for at least a couple hours. So, but yeah, so I just went directly and went ahead and dripped on the wicks there. And something to do when you do this build, if you do a vertical build like this, or even if you do the horizontal build, you want to make sure your wick goes all the way to the bottom there, so that if you do put juice in that juice well, it'll be able to make contact with your wick and soak up in there. And as you can see, these are pretty high up, so you need a good amount of wick down in there. And P. Basardo did a thing where he kind of twisted it down in there. I just fed it in and pulled it through with my tweezers, so it really wasn't that bad. Just took a minute to do that. Alright, so it did not come with this drip tip. This is my drip tip. But anyway, this ring here comes off as well, and I'm not going to pull it off because these gaskets are really, really tough. And I don't want to ruin any of them because, again, this is not my mod, so if I screw something up, I got to pay for it. So anyway, I'll just show you that this does spin, so you can adjust it for different air holes. And like I said, it goes from 1.8 to 1.5 to 1.2 millimeters. And so I'm just going to twist it back to the 1.8, and it's the only one that has 2 air holes lined up. If you look inside there, you can see the other air holes. So there's the 1.8, and you would use the 1.8 if you're doing the dual coil build. All the other air holes are for a single coil build. And again, you just line that up with your coils and press it back in. That's simple. It was a pretty easy build. The screws here, you have to feed your wire around them, so when you pull them up, you know, it doesn't have a hole to put your coil or put your wire through. So you do have to wrap them on there, but that was really easy, to be honest with you. I like these little pegs. See that? Yeah, that the screws are resting on. That made it a little easier, gave it kind of a base to attach to, and I like that. So it was actually a pretty easy build. And doing it in vertical coils, if you see the way the screws are lined up, it actually seems like it was set up to be done that way, with the middle post being somewhat higher. It allows the coils to rest vertically and you know, sit in there really easy and really easy to build. So overall, no real complaints. The longest point in building this thing was just wrapping the coils, so that only takes a couple minutes, if that. So yeah, I got no real complaints. It's a pretty cool dripper. I'm going to give it a thumbs up. I dig it. I think that's a cool feature, to be able to put juice in the juice well and to be able to drip on the go. I do know that's the only problem I have with my dripper, is bringing excess juice with me and having to drip, you know, after I take a few puffs. So I can see a benefit in having a setup like this. It did come in this pretty cool box. And look at that. What is this, you say? Oh, well, this is just an adapter piece for any other type of mod. So if you don't have an EMI, you just put the dripper on this bad boy. The screws right on there, And you know, I'm not sure what this does as far as your resistance goes, if it affects it much by having to go through another layer. I don't have a way to test that, so I'm just going to assume it doesn't do much because I threw it on the Caravela clone with this attachment and I didn't notice the difference. So I don't know. One of you experts out there that is a pro with electronics will be able to tell me, so maybe post in the comments below if you've noticed the difference in the voltage drop from using this adapter or just doing straight on the Nemesis. But I like that it just screws directly on like that. I think that's a pretty cool feature. It makes the Nemesis just a wee bit smaller. So yeah, there she is, folks. Again, I really dig this mod. I'm a fan of it. I say get it. I'll put a link in the description on where you can pick this up. Thank you, Ben Cole, for loaning me your mod, or loaning me your dripper. This is really awesome of you. I dig this thing. It's different for sure, but I dig it. I like the design of it. I like the look of it. And you know, the stainless with the copper actually looks really cool. So I'm a fan. I say pick it up. So yeah, thumbs up from the Atheist Vapist. Thank you all for watching my video. Make sure to subscribe and like my video. Find me on Facebook.com/TheAtheistVapist and on Twitter.com/AtheistVapist. Got a bunch of contests and e-juice giveaways going on, so definitely follow me on those so you can get the up and up on what I'm giving away. So thank you all again for watching. Peace and love, YouTube.